you have any doubts about not your ability, but your credibility in our market, where you might think some of the customers will think, oh, TJ, she hasn't been in our industry, or she doesn't know anything about. Because there's one thing coming at a junior or an account manager or a field salesperson. Coming at a VP,
yeah,
you must have had some pushback, whether it's from staff or customers. Was that difficult to take, or did you have experienced it?
Again, I was probably a bit blindsided. So I'd say within the first few weeks, I was like, holy, really? And because you don't know what you don't know. And because of these old acronyms. And then I got to a point where I believe you should allow people to fail safely. But I think, again, being of a certain age, I'm now not frightened to go, whoa, what does that mean? I don't understand. Talk to me like I'm 5. And then when it's explained, oh, is that what you meant? Why didn't you just say that? But I can totally understand if you are a young lady, maybe coming into IT for the first time, mid to late 20s, early 30s, that maybe there could be a fear associated to having to ask for help or to say, I don't know, because the stigma that comes with, oh, you mean you don't know? You've got that job, but you don't know.
Yeah.
And actually, employers and established people within the tech space need to create environments that an understanding that maybe a new person coming to the business might not know ABC, but they know DEF.
Yeah.
And make it a safe environment for them to learn and to fail safely. But yeah, I was absolutely met with that. But even now, from a Telev8 perspective, I'm the first person to put my hand up in the room to go, I can't really play on it anymore, really, because it's been 3 years. But I'll say, I'm new to IT, but it means I can see things in a very uninstitutionalised way.
Yeah.
And I can challenge the status quo. Whereas I think we revert to type, don't we? We go, oh, it's always been like that.
Yeah, because we almost make it like it's a bit of a dark art coming into IT with the acronyms, and they sort of people use language that people don't understand. How can we get over that and make sure that we're attracting more people to come into the industry without putting them off by thinking, oh, it's too techie, it's too complicated? Because I think a lot of people in our industry, not on purpose, but they do make it complicated. They do make it like a dark art. Almost, it puts people off even applying for the jobs and coming into the industry. How do you think we can do that, change that perception?
So it wasn't, I can't believe I can't take this one, it's a shame, but I saw another female tech panel and I can't remember the lady's name who said it, but I thought, what a phenomenal idea. Is that the business that she worked in is when they pushed out the tech roles, they took anything tech associated out of the job advert. Right. So they wrote the job advert around the skills that were needed for that role. So, for example, a leadership team, need to be proactive, used to handling put my teeth in, learning to lead a team that's maybe got 5 to 10 people, seasoned at doing one-to-ones and performance reviews, and looked at the soft skills and took everything tech-related out of it. And I can't remember the exact statistics, so I'm not going to try and make it up. But I remember from her piece on that panel, she said the application ratio of women was higher than they'd seen before. Because I think you'll know, Mark, that us women, we look at something, a job advert, and we expect to hit 100% of those tick boxes. We're not brave enough to go, well, I can do 50 or 60% of it. I'm still going to put my hat in the ring. Whereas it's statistically proven that men will go,
just apply for
50,
it, yeah.
40, let's go for it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting strategy. Take the tech element out of it, but use the description of the job role itself. And I'd love to be able to be in a position to try that when we next look at doing recruiting.
And if someone does come into the industry, obviously it's different from every person that comes into it, but at what point did you start feeling comfortable thinking, do you know what, I've got a rough understanding of the terminology in the industry and I started to feel comfortable? How long was it?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. I think, if I'm being really candid, a year.
Really? Yeah.
And I'll tell you why a year. So I joined Telev8 distribution just before lockdown. So whilst we were still busy trading and we were doing Teams calls and Zoom calls, it wasn't like being immersed into all the different kind of tech exhibitions that suddenly came to bear when the lockdown lifted. And it was only through going to various events like the Managed Services Summit, IT Europa, Technology Reseller, CompTIA, Network Buying Group. If there's any more out there I've missed, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. You can all pay me later. And seeing, you know, the different people, different industries, you know, different vendors, different MSPs, that stuff started to land very, very quickly for me. Because I think working in isolation was hard.
Yeah.
You know, you're having a few Teams meetings a day, but it's not like being immersed fully. But I think it depends how you learn is another thing. But I learn on the foot. And it's done very well for me.
Were you nervous at all, TJ? Going into, you know, you obviously you're a very experienced VP, you'd led teams, you'd been a leader, you'd been a mentor to lots of people. Was there a nerves when coming into a different industry thinking, can I do it? Will I be accepted?
Not massively, because my jobs prior to that were consultancy roles. Right. So I would be parachuted in, you don't have time to make friends, you're there to make a change. Another Michael Jackson thing there. I'm very good at this. I get dropped into it, and you've got a very small amount of time to make a change, identify a gap, and put remedial action in place. This was a little bit different because I was working with these people. So you've got to retain your credibility, be vulnerable enough to say, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about at the moment, but give me a chance, and then try and make change off the back end of that, and them to take you seriously. So it didn't always land well, I'm not going to lie. But actually, you know, when you stick to something long enough and you start to see the results happen, that's where I think the credibility starts to kick in.
Now, talking of credibility, in 2020,
yes, you
decided to start a lead gen company. Why did this happen in lockdown, in COVID? What?
Oh, I know.
Where did this brainchild come from?
Madness. Well, funny enough, I'll never forget it. It was a Friday afternoon. Me and Paul Donnelly, as you do, chewing the fat over the rest of the week. And we'd started to talk that we'd gone to some events. This was I think it was just before the lockdown, actually. And we'd gone to lots of trade events. And we've obviously got a large MSP community because Telev8 Distribution is a distributor. And one of the things, because again, not seeing things through an institutionalised way, I said, where do they get their leads from? They're all doing this digital marketing stuff, but there are sadly lead generation companies out there that don't always deliver, sadly. I think there are companies out there that do deliver and deliver brilliantly, but is it consistent? And I just said to Paul, we've got an opportunity here. Paul's been in the IT space 25 years. Obviously, I've been in telesales and telemarketing for coming up, as you know, for 36 years. We saw a gap in the market, so we built Telev8. So we've been very successful. And I think, again, sounding a bit like a broken record, the methodologies I learnt those 20 odd years ago have been the core foundation for how we build Telev8. So I'm incredibly hands-on, you know, I'm involved in every onboarding client meeting. I get involved in the building of the call frames and the call structures. I look at handpicking the call centre agent, or should I say the campaign agent for the client to make sure the brand persona matches perfectly. I am a bit of a control freak. I have got absolutely. I've got incredibly high standards because for me, I put my feet in the shoes of the customer. And I know that's an old cliche, but I love people, and not being disingenuous to the industry, IT is IT. You can get cybersecurity services, you can get disaster recovery from anyone, anywhere within that space. But what makes businesses unique are the people in it. And that's what I love. I love the story of how MSPs have become successful, how they've come to be, what they specialise in, the tone of voice that they promote their business with. Because what we do at Telev8 is we do a lot of all of that matching. So there's a real true continuity of service from the point of inception, understanding what's important to the MSP, right the way through to the campaign deployment.